Hi guys, it's PanelHopper here again. I thought I'd cap off a flurry of activity on the channel concerning Doctor Who by just doing my review of the most recent series just gone, as well as a kind of a roundup of my feelings of the Gasway era in general, and whack it up on the channel. And then we can move on to whatever comes next to Doctor Who, whenever that is. It might be a while before I post something Doctor Who related, so I thought I'd just do the review. So yeah, this series was definitely an improvement over series 14. Series 14, if you recall my review, or if you're new to the channel, if you've not seen it, was a series that had a really dodgy beginning and a terrible end, with 4 good episodes in the middle. So you have 2 bad at the beginning, 2 bad at the end, 4 good ones in the middle to make 8. In this series, it was much less uneven. My main kind of headline for this review will be close to greatness, because that's generally how I feel. Robot Revolution was fun, more original than, say, Space Babies was, which felt kind of pushing it. Lux was amazing. There's a reason Mr. Ringerding got so popular. It's because he's a standout character, and we're not going to see him again, but if they're not working on more Mr. Ringerding merchandise, they definitely should be. Then we've got The Well, which I know that some people, I've seen from thumbnails and things like that, they weren't very keen on a sequel to Midnight, and I get it. Like, I think having a mystery about a Doctor Who alien makes it more fun, and if you create a sequel to that story, then you take away some of the mystery, or you don't add to it meaningfully, you can take away that fun. But I thought I thought The Well was a really good episode. I thought that although obviously you kind of link it back to a well-liked episode in a way that's not that meaningful, I think it still stood up on its own right. I think that although not a lot happened in it, the episode as a whole, I think that if you were to strip away the Midnight Connection, what you have is still quite a good episode with a scary monster where not a lot happens plot-wise. So, in my opinion, with The Well, what you have is a quite good episode where not a lot happens plot-wise, with a little bit of extra spice from it being a sequel to Midnight. Then after that, we have Lucky Day and the introduction of Conrad and all that good political stuff. I mean, a lot. If you know my channel, you know that I'm not a big fan of that kind of podcast grift stuff anyway. So it was good to see Doctor Who challenge that, because more needs to be said in mainstream media to avoid that kind of reactionary stuff. Whether Doctor Who did it perfectly right, I don't know. But it's good of it to try. Doctor Who has always been political in one way or another. After Lucky Day, we've got The Story in the Engine, which is the standout episode for me. Definitely so interesting, so original. Doctor Who actually needs more stuff like that. Not if I were to commission a series of Doctor Who, it would be more things like The Story in the Engine. It's definitely the standout for me for this series. And then we move into the final 3 episodes. So, Interstellar Song Contest, a lot has already been said by people smarter than me, and who have greater insight into quite why this was so wrong. But I think that, I believe myself to be reasonably intelligent, and I enjoy thinking about theme and things like that. But this wasn't really theming and subtext. This was just text. I think that the episode was trying its best to do Die Hard at Eurovision, but in the current context, it came off really badly. And I can understand why Shuji Gatwa wanted to pull out of hosting our Eurovision results immediately following an episode that was so deeply misguided. I don't know the political views of Juno Dawson, the author, regarding the Middle East conflict, and I don't. Given that Interstellar Song Contest is so misguided in its messaging, I choose to believe that it's that misguided because the person didn't intend for it to be that bad, because I think if it wanted to say something more clearly, it would have done so. I think you can only arrive at that kind of horrendous mixed messaging by mistake, not on purpose. So yeah, then we get to the two-part finale, Wishworld and the Reality War. These are very fresh in the mind. Some people have only just seen them together in the cinema. And yeah, so Wishworld is a good part one setup, with again building on the interesting ideas of Conrad, and then Reality War is the Reality War. It's only just, we're only about over 24 hours since it's been on. We're still absorbing it, and I think that it's an episode two halves. You have the half that deals with the plot, where the Doctor dispatches Omega pretty easily after Omega, who looks like a Dark Souls boss, eats the Rani, and the other Rani gets away, which makes Bi-Generation pointless. If RTD wanted to just keep Anita Dobson as the Rani, he could have done that. He didn't need to Bi-Generate her and cast someone just to be eaten by Omega an episode later. And then there's the Zero Room box, and the fact that it seems to suck out Belinda's personality, metaphorically speaking, and Belinda gets reduced to just being a mum, even though that's Conrad's thing for her, and not something that she's really ever indicated. And then after that, we're building towards the regeneration, and the regeneration is still being litigated. I've done a video on it already. I don't think it's a good idea. I've said publicly on multiple videos on this channel, I didn't think it would happen, yet here we are, it is happening. So the only thing we can do now is wait and see how it unfolds. If we get more stuff with Billie Piper, then I will judge that on a case-by-case basis, as I would with any Doctor I'm not sure about. I wasn't sure about Matt Smith back in the day. I turned out to be right long term, but Series 5 was good. You judge these things on a case-by-case basis. It'll be the same with Billie Piper as the Doctor. My biggest fear, of course, is that the show doesn't come back either for quite a long time or at all, in which case we would have ended the show on that reveal, which is one of the many reasons why it's a bad idea. And until I see more, I won't be able to say more than it's a bad idea, possibly executed at the wrong time, and we'll only know any different if they do any more. And if they don't, then the people who think this is a terrible idea, like me, or people who think more strongly about it than me, will be proved right. It's all in the execution. That's it, really. That's my review of season 2. What did I think of the Ncuti Gatwa era overall? It's an improvement over the Jodie Whittaker era for certain, if only because I think Ncuti enjoyed his tenure more. I still think that Jo Martin is being hard done by the fugitive Doctor, even as Russell chooses to include her more, even as Russell tries to mend some of the breaks in the Chibnall era. I don't think that he's making the right choices, and I'm not in charge of the show, but I would have definitely given that regeneration to Jo Martin. I would definitely like to see more of her. But overall, on an episode by episode basis, I think this is a better era than the Whittaker era, but in a different way. I like Jodie Whittaker, but this is better than her era, but also making a few fatal mistakes. very close to greatness, as I said my original headline was. So yeah, that'll be it. I might do a reaction to the Wonderland Disney trailer, I might not, but I'll see you guys around on my channel for other reviews, and I'll be back if there's any more Doctor Who news. Okay, bye.